Hello, welcome to All for United WFC. There you go. I'm like a London bus. I am. You wait a week to get one, and then you get two in the space of 48 hours. No Barry again, no Charlie again. So you're left with me. I'm soloing it from a host point of view on a Friday night. Where else would you rather be than with these three lovely people alongside me to go through United v Leicester on Sunday? So obviously we've got a lot to get into, as you would have heard from Wednesday's show. Obviously we'll talk about rotation a little bit, talk obviously about Leicester. They've had a strong start, not just a strong start, a stat that I saw earlier. They are if you look at the point since the start of April, they have only picked up less than Chelsea and United. So they're on a good run of form since the start of April. So we'll get into all of that as well. Yeah, so plenty to talk about. Andrew, I'll throw it over to yourself first then. Firstly, welcome back. Thanks for coming on. I guess the first kind of question is, from a United point of view, this has got to be a must-win, right?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't expect to be saying that against Leicester City so early on in the season. Their start, things took everyone a bit by surprise. The way they've started. Even like last week, I did fancy them beating Everton, and I think I put that in my in the predictions lead that they'd get the win. So to see them top is a bit of a surprise, and I think before the start of the season, I think there's they're waiting for their first win last season. They got it in January, so to start this season so well for them, it's caught us all by surprise. But yeah, definitely a must win for United if we want to be still like inside the top four and challenging for the title this season. But yeah, I'd say in terms of I think he might Marc Skinner might look to rotate a little bit. Well, I hope he does, because going into the second leg against PSG might be a bit key as well. So yeah, it's definitely a must win on that score.
It's certainly something we'll get into. I'll get to Kevin, your comment in a second, but it's certainly something we'll get into, obviously, with talking about rotation, because there's a lot to talk about there. I want to talk about Marc Skinner's comments about Guerrero as well, because I found that pretty interesting today, which didn't feel was necessary, but that's a whole other conversation. So we'll get into all of that as well. Obviously, talk a little bit about Leicester in just a second. But Mia, over to yourself. Kevin is straight in the chat. Hope you're more optimistic about Sunday than you are against You're obviously about PSG next week. What are your kind of thoughts going to this one? And again, I'm pretty sure it's got to be a must-win, right, for United?
Yeah, of course. But I think the one thing for United is to remember, I am being optimistic. This is not the same Leicester team that we've seen in seasons prior. This is a really confident, attacking, they've shown in every game they've played so far that they're taking this really seriously. So yeah, it's a must win. United are on good form as well at the minute. So yeah, you'd expect with it being at LSV, they've always beaten Leicester. They've always beaten Willie Kirk, even when he was at Everton. So everything's lining up for this to be a United win.
Don't say that. You know what's going to happen now. That's getting clipped up and retweeted on Sunday afternoon. If we don't,
we're going to be optimistic. We're going to win.
What have you done? There's a few comments, obviously, about your red card on Wednesday night. Shocking, isn't it? It got rescinded straight away. we reviewed this and thought it was probably best to let it back on after Wednesday's shenanigans. Hannah, throw it over to yourself. And firstly, thanks for coming on and welcome to the channel. Your first time, obviously, on here. So hopefully no nerves for coming on here. As you can already see, we're pretty crazy over here, I've got to be honest. From a Leicester point of view, and I know you're not a Leicester fan, so to speak, but you've certainly watched a lot more of them than we have. What would you say is a good result for Leicester? Obviously, picking up a point, getting a win. Where do you kind of feel they are going into this one?
I mean, for me personally, I'd say a good performance is probably where you would start with that. Obviously, you mentioned there, Leicester haven't beaten Man United. I think United tend to win pretty comfortably against them. So I would say a positive performance would be key. But if they can get a point or, even a win, that would probably, Willie Kirk was sort of asked about the start to the season in his press conference as well. And he mentioned, no one would have really foreseen this kind of a start for Leicester. So you know, it would be absolutely formidable if they could make it 4 wins from 4. But there's no beating around the bush. This is probably the toughest of any game that they've had this season. Obviously, Liverpool in the Conti Cup was a tough one, but Conti Cup, there tends to be rotation. So of all the games, this is probably the one, and sort of going into a bit more of a difficult run now, because obviously they've got Manchester City after this as well. So this will probably be the real test of sort of where they're at as a team, and whether or not they, I guess, can compete with the top teams in the WSL. But yeah, I mean, it would take a real optimist to feel like they can get something from this game, just because there's no denying Man United's quality is there. So, but they'll probably be as confident as they've ever been, and they sort of have to take that sort of fearless attitude into a game like this. And, you know, I think Leicester are probably a team that are guilty of, in the past at least, sort of playing the badge and things like that, and sort of not sort of almost going into the game defeated before a ball's been kicked, and that's something I think will be different this time around, given the start that they've had, the form that they're in, and confidence I think will be key for them, because, you know, like I said, if you go into a game before a ball's been kicked thinking that you've lost, then you probably will lose. So that will probably be the big difference this time around.
I was going to say, thinking back to last season, Andrew, I can see a couple of comments about Leipzig. Obviously, there's a couple of other Leicester players I want to mention as well. We will get into all of that. It's also just why Barry's absent. Suspension. Yeah, now they've started something here as well. He will be back. He was supposed to be on tonight, but he is watching. I think he's watching some boxing. I think it's his cousin's like amateur box or something like that. Anyway, I think that's where he is tonight. But yeah, you could, don't fret. He'll be back Monday night. He'll be back in the review. But Andrew, obviously looking at last season's results, and we know obviously this is a different Leicester side. Obviously, we were pretty comfortable at home again last season at LSV 5-1. Although it wasn't like that for a little bit. I remember Leicester scored just after half time and it made it 2-1. It was a little bit like, oof, what's going on here? And obviously the away game was a lot more tricky. You know, only just straight through the 1-0 there, and that was probably our worst performance of the season. So, feelings-wise, are you pretty confident going into this one? Are you a little bit wary, obviously, of the start that Leicester have had, and obviously the back end of last season, they went on a good run as well? Where are your kind of feelings towards the game as a whole?
Probably a little bit more wary of Leicester than given their start. Even like last season, that away game, it was probably our most difficult, even though we won 1-0. Leicester did frustrate us, especially even more so in the second half. So I was like, you know, and the start they'd made, you know, so beating Everton, Bristol, and even the Conti Cup win against Liverpool as well. And there's one player I think that's really made it a bit of a big difference from it is Leipzig as well, coming from Bayern Munich. I think to get a goalkeeper like that from Bayern Munich, you know, could have gone anywhere else, but went to Leicester. So it's definitely a team to be wary of. And I just think we've got to be on our guard from the very first minute, because if we give them a chance, you know, and they take it, we're going to be on the back foot, a bit like Wednesday night. You know, PSG were just literally hammering us, and we probably should have been out of it by the first half, but, you know, second half we turned it around. But I think if we go on the front foot straight away now and we get ahead, then hopefully we can score a good few past them. But yeah, I'm just a bit wary of them, so just can't, you know, deny what they've done so far.
Somebody you mentioned there, and Hannah, I'll come back to yourself and on this one. Obviously, Leipzig is the key, and I was berated on this channel for saying that she is the best keeper in the league at the back end of last season. Obviously, being a United fan, I got slaughtered for that, because apparently Mary Ups is better, but I will stand by that. I think Leipzig is better than her. It's just playing in a team that's going to concede more naturally, just because the backline maybe isn't as strong. But I guess how impressed have you been with her? And also just, I guess, Leicester being able to pull off that transfer. We know that United were interested, and there was interest from United over the summer in her. But she's obviously gone to Leicester, game time, obviously, is the big thing. She knows she's going to start there. But yeah, what have you made of her and the fact that Leicester are able to pull off a signing like that? Because for me, that keeps them in the league just by signing her.
Yeah, I mean, she was a relative unknown. I think when she came in January, I wasn't all too familiar with her. Obviously, I don't watch too much of the German league, but there's no denying that I think without Janina Leitzig, I don't know if Leicester stay up. Like, she was absolutely integral to that second half of the season, and it wasn't just the saves that she makes, but the confidence that she instills in the back line in front of her. She is absolutely integral, and Leicester were desperate to keep her. The fans were desperate to keep her. You're hearing chants at games both home and away of chanting for her to stay. And I was a little bit surprised, if I'm being honest, because like you said, with other clubs interested, I never felt like, I mean, buying Selena was probably the easy part. I think that was always going to happen, but it was just where she goes after that. And when you're talking about, top WSL clubs probably in for her, that's probably the double-edged sword of having a player perform so well, is obviously she's keeping you in games, and she's playing a huge part, but obviously other WSL teams are watching it and taking note and probably interested. So I was a little bit surprised that they managed to pull it off, but I think that's probably largely down to the fact that she's probably now a bit more settled in Leicester. She's got a manager that believes in her, teammates that adore her, a fan base that adore her as well. So it might have been an easy decision in that respect for her to come back. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if she is necessarily the best in the WSL. I do think Mary is definitely up there, but she is, for me, one of the best in the WSL, just from what I've seen. I mean, the WSL's sort of got a breadth of sort of incredible goalkeepers when you think about the likes of Daphne van Domselaar coming into the league as well. But Janina is outstanding, and I'm sure she'll have a big part to play on Sunday as well.
She was very annoying in the 5-1 win last season as well, because that could have been up to 10 if it wasn't for her, if I remember rightly as well. And didn't she save a penalty and then save the rebound at the weekend as well?
Yeah,
the game just gone at the weekend.
Yeah, that was outstanding, and it was a point where Everton were really starting to get into the game, and Leicester were probably the better side for most of that first half, and then obviously Everton grew into it, got the penalty, and if that goes 1-0 then it's a question of whether or not Leicester are able to get back into it. But that's the kind of player that she is. She does step up in those big moments as well. So just a really impressive display all round, and last season and the start of this season as well.
No, for sure. I'm sorry, NC. We got a bit saying that. I was quite confident until everyone shared their balanced and nuanced opinions. We're going to get to United in a second. Talk obviously about Jason Mallard and all the players that are going to win us the game. Don't you worry. We'll get your confidence back towards the end of the show. There was a comment a bit further up that I brought on screen, and Amir, I'll throw it over to yourself on this one, considering we're talking goalkeepers. Saying I'm saying it now. Mary Earps is struggling with her backline, obviously, and then following on from that, saying everyone's overlooking the departure of Honor. I think that's had a massive impact, because other than that, it's pretty much the same backline. Letitia, Turner, Blundell. Blundell's just playing on the other side, so it's only Gabby George that's changed in that backline. Do you agree with that, or what's your kind of thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think Honor is world class, and she showed that she was consistent. And it wasn't just her defensive abilities, it was her attacking abilities, and she's so dynamic as a player. And when you lose somebody like that, United have brought in Gabby George, who is, again, every time I come on since she's joined, I've praised her. She's been amazing. She's been very, very good, very solid, happy to go forward, but it's not the world-class quality that Honor brought. I think Hannah has struggled at the start of games for most of this season so far. She's grown into them, but the defense has definitely looked a little bit weird the start of this season. It doesn't look as solid as it was before. That could be for a number of reasons. There's a lot of new players across the board in that team. Obviously, there was a lot about Mary potentially leaving over the summer. Is that unsettling? Potentially. Honor obviously going. That's pretty unsettling, because how do you find that balance again? So yeah, I think the back line has its challenges. As much as you say that it's more or less the same, it is more or less the same. But Hannah's swapped sides, and all of this just contributes to maybe the sort of dysfunction that's happening at the minute. And it's not awful, right? Because United are doing well, they're in good form, but it is sometimes an uncomfortable watch when that ball goes back.
And Andrew, again, throw it to yourself in terms of that question on the back line, but also a question I wanted to ask anyway in terms of the goalkeepers. Obviously, this kind of leads into the rotation bit anyway, but just on the goalkeeper, would you be swapping Mary out for this one and saving her for PSG? What would you be looking at that one? Obviously, we don't tend to see rotation in goalkeepers anyway, just unless you're Emma Hayes and Chelsea and you've got 4 of them. But what do you kind of reckon on that one? Because Fallon's we signed her for a record fee for a goalkeeper. She's got to play at some point. Is this the kind of game you'd be looking to swap her in? Where are you kind of your thoughts on the back line and whether we should be swapping in Fallon for this one?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I'm just thinking, agree with Mia's points on the back line as well. It's just like, even like with I think Mary's struggling a bit to get used to, even though it's essentially Hannah's moved from one side to the other. I think Hannah's, she's always predominantly played left back with us, so it's just like it's even new for her. So it's like, I think even the other night she struggled a lot with the pace of the PSG player. I can't remember her name, the number 22, but that's why he put Skinner put Riviera in front of her. But I think she was getting caught out as well. It was like, well, do I come back and defend and help Hannah out, or go on the attack as well? So it was like, and that led to a lot of PSG chances and on Mary Earps' goal. But so that's the only the difference is just Hannah's getting used to being a right back again. But could he essentially change, bring Hannah out and just put Jade as a right back? I don't know. But with regards to Mary, I'd say she's still the number one for me. I'd just say she'll give everything for United. So I think she'll just want to play every game. So I don't see Skinner, replacing her for Fallon. But then where do you give Fallon game time? So if we get through in the Champions League, then we don't play like any of the League Cup games until the new year. So it's going to be, let's say, how long's Fallon going to wait for a chance? But no, I wouldn't change Mary. So she's still the number one for me.
This is an interesting conversation. With Sporty's saying that obviously she needs to start gaining experience. At some point, there's a possibility that Mary's leaving in January at the end of the season, so we're going to have to get used to it at some point.
But it's just where, like, the way Arsenal started, you're just thinking, we're above Arsenal still in January. I'm like, well, Mary, do you really want to go there? So, but I don't know. It's one of those. And
Paul, in answer to your question, you are correct. She's never missed a league game
since she came in. So
it's a pretty strong record to stand by. And I don't understand this. I thought it was a pretty good question when I was writing these earlier, but there we are. And just because I think it's so good, Mia, I'm going to ask you as well. Would you swap Fallon in for Mary this Sunday, or would you keep it the same?
I mean, I don't think it's warranted. I don't think she deserves to be swapped out. And even if, like, tiring reasons, I think she's okay. But I do agree I'd like to see Fallon, and trying to work out when we would see her is strange. It's a hard one. I would like to see Fallon, but I don't think Earps deserves or needs to really be changed round. She's done okay. The sort of form Leicester's in, it's also like that respect that sort of United have to have for Leicester in the way that they are at the minute. You put out your best team to play the team that's currently, we're only 2 games in, but they are top of the league. So no, I say don't drop Mary. She deserves to be in that number 1 spot still.
And Hannah, I know you've not watched a lot, but again, I'm going to ask you: would you be swapping them around? Because as Sporty said, you don't pay a record fee for a keeper and then just bench up for the whole season. And Andrew makes the point: if we make the Champions League groups, we don't make the Conti Cup groups. So there's no real chance for it to get in there. The FA Cup's not till next year, so there's not really any. Like, what would you be doing with that situation? And is this the kind of game where you'd be looking to swap them around?
I mean, it's a headache that I don't envy Marc Skinner having at all. I mean, I'm always of the opinion that, you know, go with your best starting 11, and if that's Mary, that's Mary. So that's probably the direction that I would be going in. I sort of going into it, I mean, I don't watch too much of United, but I wouldn't expect Marc Skinner to make too many rotations. Ultimately, as important as the Champions League is, it's still the WSL, and if you don't do your job in the WSL, then you're not going to get in the Champions League. So every game is important, and I think given that obviously Arsenal have already dropped points this season, Chelsea have already dropped points against Manchester City, and sort of ran quite close against Tottenham as well. I do think it's a real opportunity for United this season to at least run Chelsea close again. So I would just be going strongest in every game, and for me, that at this moment in time, that would probably be Mary. But obviously, I've not seen any of Fallon, but it is an interesting dilemma. Obviously, like you said, if you've paid that much for a goalkeeper, you've got to play them at some point. And I think with the women's game, there's not probably, we talk about there being too many games, but in a sense, sometimes it feels like there isn't enough in terms of getting those minutes and all the players. But yeah, I mean, if Mary isn't in the starting lineup on Sunday, I'll be a little bit surprised.
I think that's going to be. Jake makes a good point. Now, if you drop Mary, you know, the media is going to run a big story on that, and that is going to become the story. I agree with that. I just feel like this. If it's not Leicester, I'm going to ask this same question next week when we do our Everton preview, because I feel like it's got to be in the next few weeks. My personal opinion is Mary's going regardless of whether we win it all, and I just think she's going. I think she's already made her mind up. And that's why I'm pushing this narrative a little bit. I feel like Fallon should be getting game time at some point.
Connor, can I just add to the chat about the fee, because it's a good point. I think what United have done there is they know, like you've just said there, they know she's going. They know she's not going to sign another contract. So what they've done there with Fallon is they're paying for the future. She's quite young. You've put that money down. You've got her in the ranks. She's got a season with the best goalkeeper in the world. Got the trophy for it. And that's what you pay for. You pay for her to sit and learn and get the WSL experience in terms of watching and understanding who the players are. And, you know, when that time comes and the League Cup arrives, then she plays. But I think what they've done is they've paid for the future. So right now, I think it's only Mary. And I think Fallon probably knew that when she turned up as well.
Do you know what I love there? You said that Fallon was young and she's a year older than me, so I'm quite happy with that. Because that means that I'm we're back what we did on Wednesday, where we're calling players over a certain age old and under. I can't remember what she's 26, so I wouldn't class that as young. But
She's young enough.
She's 27 next week, so to me that's entering your prime years as a footballer anyway, certainly not in general life, I should hope. But yeah, to me that's, I know, started off so well. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. As I said, if she doesn't start at the weekend, I'll be asking the same question next week anyway. We'll come back to rotation in just a second, but Hannah, straight back over to yourself then. From a Leicester point of view, who should United be looking out for in terms of from an attacking threat? Anyone good defensively? Obviously, we've mentioned the goalkeeper. Who should United be looking out for from a threat point of view from Leicester?
I mean, in the Everton game, I was really impressed with Missy Goodwin and Shannon O'Brien on either flank. I thought they're really, really young players, but they played with a sense of like fearlessness that I really like. They're confident, and obviously Shannon got a goal against Bristol City in their first game as well. So they're two that I think are really interesting. Obviously, Lena Peterman has scored 2 goals in 2 WSL games already, so she's another one that if Leicester are going to get a goal, I'd assume it will probably come from her. And then I'm not entirely sure if Amy Palmer will start. My senses tell me she probably won't. But if she does get minutes on the pitch, she's scored 2 goals already this season, one in the league that, you might have seen clips of it. It was an outrageous goal against her former club, Bristol City. And then she scored a really good free kick against Liverpool in the week as well. So in terms of a sort of goal threat as well, they've got that in midfield in abundance. I think Jetta Rantala has been another really impressive signing that they made over the summer. She's looked really good. She's adapted to the physicality of the WSL really well. So there's a lot of firepower as well. And I think, if anything, the recruitment that they had over the summer, they've added a lot of firepower and depth in their attacking ranks, especially when you think about even if Deanne Rose is on the bench, that's still someone that they'll be able to bring on and hopefully make an impact. And then Hannah Kane as well. She hasn't started the WSL games this season, but obviously you saw the impact that she had against Liverpool as well. So there's plenty of players to be wary of, but obviously, United have their own that Leicester will have to be wary of, and obviously United have that in abundance.
I saw one of the goals against Liverpool. I'm pretty sure 10 players touched the ball before. I think it was the Hannah Kane goal, the second one against Liverpool in the cup. 10 out of the 11 players. I can't remember which one didn't, but yeah, all touched the ball before it went in. It was a nice goal, actually. So certainly one to look at. And obviously you mentioned Palmer there. Actually, United obviously won the championship with us back in obviously the first championship season with United. So another player that United fans will know from previous as well, from right at the beginning. Obviously you mentioned Rose. I want to come back to her actually, because that's somebody I've been speaking about on this channel for God knows how long. Ever since I started doing shows on there, I've been speaking about her, and she's just always injured. So I want to come back to her most definitely in just a second. Andrew, then, rotation for the front line. We'll start with that, because that seems to be the area, obviously, that is being spoken about if there's going to be rotations. That front line, we've got a lot of players there. What would you be doing, I guess, with that front, or I guess the front six, if you want to call it that, the midfield and the front three, in terms of who you... it's a two-part question, really. Who you want to see rotated and who you think he will, if any. He might not change anything, but...
He might... I just think with the... Because Jason only had the second half in the 45 minutes. I don't know whether he'll start or on Sunday, give her another 45 minutes or 60 minutes, That's one I'm unsure of. So I'd like to see Melvin Millard come in as well, because I think she's come off the bench and done really well. I actually see her start from the start of the game. Also Nikita Paris as well. So I would bring in Paris and Millard, give them a start the game as well. Maybe Rachel Williams as well. Give her the start. I just think she deserves after scoring that winning goal against the Villa. So I think she deserves a start. I'm just no discredit to Leicester. I just think she could bring some firepower to the attack as well. I think we'll see. I think Skinner will bring back Hayley Ladd in. I just think. I don't know whether Lisa Noslin, I don't know if she did enough to warrant starting again against Leicester. I don't know. I think, Skinner will go back to, the trusted Zellerman Ladd partnership. So, also, I'd like to see Mia Zawa a bit more. When she's come on, she's been so, just come in and, been so tidy on the ball, compact, and just, getting into a good space as well. So it'd be interesting to see if she would get a start as well. So do I see much rotation being made by Skinner? I just think he'll revert back to what's been in the league games. I don't. He might one or two changes, but as I say, he always likes that consistency with the team as well. So it's not going to make too many changes in my estimation. But you never know. You might spring a few surprises on us all.
I was going to say, Mia, I'll throw it to yourself. And there's a lot of talk about tuning chat started by Shannon saying as much as she loves her, it doesn't warrant a starting place, and that started a whole of the conversation in the chat about her in particular. So obviously the team that started against Arsenal was the Zellum Lad Tooney that we saw for most of last season, Galton Garcia and Jason Top. Are you expecting to see that again? And also, who do you want to see rotated in or out, if not those?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I was thinking, he probably isn't going to rotate. And then I was thinking of the front three, and then Andrew mentioned Nikita Paris, and I was like, oh, of course. How could I forget? And then I forgot about Leah Galton, because I was thinking about Jason. It's just a wonderful problem to have. And you just have all of these excellent attackers who are quality when they're all on form and all, you know. But I don't know. It's a headache. But I also think that there is no wrong starting attacking lineup. Like if you're thinking of a front three, I don't think you can really go wrong at the minute. I don't think anyone's been. There's a couple of people that say that Galton hasn't been very good. I disagree with that. I think she's very lively. She does a lot of sort of carrying forward. She got very frustrated against PSG, but she's not played badly. But yeah, maybe this is the time to bring Nikita Paris in. Definitely want to see Mallard playing. Definitely. She has been awesome when she's come on, and I'd also like to see her partnering with Jace, and just those two together. I was saying it when we was doing the review of PSG, but those two together are just electric, and yeah, that would be really cool. So I think that they're the main. I think Tooney as well. I think if you're taking her performances and how she's been playing into consideration, I think you would probably drop her. I don't think she will be dropped for a number of reasons. You know, she brings a lot of, this might be controversial here, but she brings a lot of people to the ground. But I'd like to see Miyazawa start as well, maybe in place of Alatoon. Again, it's a happy headache for Marc Skinner, but it's very promising for United as well. They've got all of this talent that's just ready to go and fit and healthy. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does, whether he does change it, but famously he doesn't very often.
I'm so torn. Paris was a player I didn't even consider until, Andrew, you just mentioned it obviously a second ago, because I think that would be the player I'd start on the right. Now you've said it. It just gives the other player. I'm trying to think of PSG because that's only a few days obviously after this game. Who do I want to see start against PSG? And it's Jace on the right, Mallard down the middle, and Golson off the left. So I don't really want either three of those to be playing a great chunk in this game. Obviously, we might need them. We might go 1-0 down, or we might be 0-0 later on in the game. We might need them to get the win because, again, as we said at the start, this is a must-win for us as well. So Paris. It's going to be Jay. The thing is, we can speculate all we want. I'm pretty sure I agree with both. I think it's just going to be the same as what we've seen. I think it'll be Garcia on the right, Jace down the middle, Golden on the left, Tooney behind, Zellerman Ladd in behind those two, which I don't want. Let me just put that out there. But I don't know. He talks about rotation. He spoke about it a lot this season. But then he follows that up with, when we say rotation, we don't necessarily mean the starting 11. We can mean the subs as well. And that, to me, just makes me think he's going to go with the same again and then change it earlier in games, which I don't know. I feel like there's some players that have warranted starting places, particularly off the back of last season. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think you are right, though, Mia, in terms of there's no wrong answer as such, because whoever starts in that front six is more than capable of doing so. Just on Jace, while we're thinking about her, actually, before I forget the question, because I know it's not written down, but I've just remembered I was going to ask this. I guess, Andrew, how important do you think it is for her to get off the mark this weekend? Because there's a little already, even though we've only played 3 games, there's a little bit of criticism that she's not scored yet. Albeit, I think she's been excellent in those 3 games that we've seen her. But that's obviously the reason we brought her in, for the most part, obviously, was to score. She's not done that yet. Do you feel like she should probably start this weekend and try and get off the mark in that goal scoring capacity, or are you not too worried yet?
Not too worried as yet. I know that's predominantly why she's been brought in, to score the goals as well. But just think that second half against PSG, she just brought so much energy to that attack, which was virtually lacking in that first half. And just feel like she just needs to get on, an end of a chance if she starts against Leicester, whatever way it goes in. And I think it would just give us such a boost to her confidence as well. But that she just, running the line, muscling players off her as well. I'm just thinking I've never seen quite a strong player like that before. And I'm just thinking, it's something different United have never had before. So I just think once she gets her first, I think then she'll be firing in more. I just think hopefully it's against Leicester as well. Hopefully she can bag a few bit as well. But whether she does the whole 90 minutes with PSG in mind, maybe Mark, you might decide to do the same again. He might give it the second half again, or he might just give her the first 60 minutes. But let's say, from what I've seen of her so far, I just think she's really impressed me so far. So let's say the goals will come. So just got to be patient with her.
No, I agree on that one. I'm convinced that somebody sends you my question sheet every week, because we are going to get to Irene Guerrero towards the end. Because yes, you are exactly right. Literally, my exact Amir will back this up. Because I sent it to before we went live. I wrote exact same comments about Builder last season under the question about Guerrero's comments. So we are going to get to that towards the end. But Mia, before I come back to you on Jace, Hannah, over to yourself. I mentioned obviously Deanne Rose a second ago. And the reason I wanted to ask a question on her specifically is purely because I've just raved about her for years and wanted her at United at some point, but obviously that's not materialised. What have you kind of made of her, and I guess the signing of her? Because obviously went down with Reading, as did obviously a lot of good players in that side. But what have you made of her, I guess, so far? Obviously we're very early into the season, but also the fact that Leicester picking her up and how she's kind of settled into that side.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really sort of impressive signing when it was made. Obviously, her time at Reading didn't quite go as she probably would have hoped, given the injury problems. But, what I would say with Leicester is I think they're managing her extremely carefully. I think she herself probably came in maybe expecting to play a little bit more, play a bit more of a sort of prominent sort of starting role. But I think, Willie Kirk's alluded to the fact they've sort of had to sit down with her and sort of knuckle down her playing minutes and sort of adapt her training sessions and things like that, and just make sure that she's robust enough to sort of hopefully get a full season out of her. But in terms of sort of substitute appearances in the WSL, at least, all I've really seen of her this season in terms of a full game was sort of that cameo against Everton, and I thought she looked really lively. I think at a point in the game where Leicester was struggling a little bit, Everton were on top for probably most of the second half, really. It was sort of the introduction of Hannah Kane and Deanne Rose especially that got them back into it and sort of allowed them to have a little bit more control. So I don't think she'll start against United on Sunday, but no doubt she'll certainly be a player that Willie Kirk turns to on the bench probably in the second half.
I'm pretty sure as well. Didn't she pick up the long-term injury last season at LSV when Reading came to United? I'm pretty sure it was her that went off, and obviously then she was out for the season. I think, unless I'm making that up and my memory's gone, but it was the first game of last season, I think, or very early on, and I'm pretty sure she went off injured and obviously missed majority of it anyway. Yeah, certainly a threat off the bench, as you said. I think Leicester's attack it's obviously not one of the best in the league, but certainly can cause teams problems. Obviously, we saw Carrie Jones there last season. I thought she had a pretty good loan there as well. So, I mean, there's a question for you, Mia. Was it you? Are we starting a rumour now that it was you?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I thought I could sneak away with no one realising, but God.
That's going to be the running thing now. The update on Mannion is there's no update. She's just out injured for the foreseeable. I don't think we'll be seeing her before. I'm trying to think of who we play. Spurs, maybe. It's at least another 6 weeks, I would have thought, before we even see her in and around. So we've got a bit of time on that one. You've got a hashtag started now. Mia is innocent. What's going on here? There we are. Yes, it was. So yeah, that's what I mean. It'll be about six or so weeks before we see her back in, which is a shame because I think she gets into our back line. But she's always injured. We can't have that one. So Mia, I guess the same question I just asked Andrew on Jace. Do you think she needs a goal this weekend? Would you be starting to get a little bit worried if we get past this weekend in Paris if she's not got a goal yet? Or are you just quite happy with her general play?
Yeah, I think Honestly, I think, am I on? Okay, good. I think I lost my connection a little bit there. Oh, brilliant. I would be worried for her, for her confidence, and also for the team and the reason they've brought her in. And that is because she has it all. And I think we've said sort of over the last couple of shows that when she plays really well. But the one thing that's frustrating and annoying is that she makes the wrong decisions. And usually that ends in a wild shot. Most of the time, I think I can say comfortably it's not on target. Every now and then it is. And that might be her trying too hard to score. Maybe it's a case of she needs to settle down a little bit and realize that she actually is quality and can score and doesn't have to, pound it outside the box or anything like that. But I would expect her to score this weekend. And if she doesn't, it could start sort of a role of, well, when is she going to score? She does everything else perfectly. Everything else is perfect. That's the one thing that she's yet to show. So yeah, I would be a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think I agree with you, Sport. I think the goals will come out. I think we are relaxed. I don't think anyone's worried here. I think I've just got to ask the questions, haven't I? Don't shoot the messenger. I've got to ask these questions. I don't usually bring comments like this up because I do feel like it's a bit overboard, and it's probably a good thing Barry's not on because he'd be straight back at this comment. I feel that's a little bit harsh. If Skinner doesn't rotate, he should be fine. I mean, he could not rotate all season and win the league. Would you still want him to go then? I'm not sure. I mean, each to their own. Like, if you're not a fan of his, fair enough. Plenty of people aren't. But I feel like it's a little bit harsh. Although I agree with the point on rotation. I think we've got to see it this season because of the players we've signed. You cannot just have them on the bench. I think people have already answered that. She's not going to play this season. Not after doing her ACL over the summer. That's just too short of a time frame, unfortunately, and it's such a shame because I think we would have seen her this season as well at some point. See, I disagree. I think sometimes maybe, and she's clearly got that confidence just to take anybody on and go for goal, which again is a good and bad thing. At times you need a little bit of composure, but yeah, I'm not too sure. But I don't know. I agree with that. I think once she gets one, it'll be fine. And we'll be seeing it more often, that's for sure. There was a question a bit further up that I feel like I've missed. I can't find it now. I'll come back to it in a second. Right, let's get on to these Guerrero comments then for just a second. Because Sporty said that, somebody just said that they didn't see the comments, so they're intrigued by this conversation. The exact quote that I've written down is what Marc Skinner was obviously asked why we haven't seen Irene Guerrero this season. And one of his responses was, we are trying to teach her the defensive attributes you need to play in this league. The reason I've picked that up is because he said that about Vilda all last season, repeatedly, that we're working on a defensive attribute. She needs to get stronger and all these kinds of things. And we never saw her. And obviously she's been literally in this swap deal and Guerrero's come the other way. Andrew, what do you make of that then? Because he seems to like to say this about certain players, but he won't say it about others. And I think that's my only issue with him on this, that I don't know. I've got a slight issue with him saying it again about a player, but he won't say it about anybody else in the squad, no matter how they play defensively. That's my only gripe, a little bit. But what's your kind of thoughts on that particular one?
It's a bit of an interesting one from Marc Skinner. As you said, he was saying that about Vilda last season, but then with Guerrero, she's come from a different league, so maybe has a bit of a point. So teaching the defensive attributes, when it comes to playing in WSL games. But let's say it's probably the one player we're all waiting to see now, because we've basically seen everybody else except for I think Gemma Evans hasn't played for us yet, but I'm seeing Guerrero as the one I'm looking forward to seeing, getting on the pitch. But just thinking, how long can he keep saying that, comment, about those attributes he needs? So at some point he's going to have to throw her into a game, and see what she can actually do. So, and who she actually, comes in and replaces as well. So it's one of those, hopefully, she gets up to the standard that Skinner requires, and we'll see her in games soon enough. Because I thought this might have been another black. Because I thought you said the other week she's got a slight injury as well. That's why we haven't seen much of her as well. But I could be wrong. Could be another player. But yeah, so hopefully, pretty much soon we'll see her on the pitch, and see what she can actually do for us.
I think that's it. Everyone's in the sport is saying why sign the player if she doesn't. I know from what I was told on Vilda's exit that she was essentially forced out. So why do a swap with somebody who, for me, he doesn't need to say that, and it's just bizarre.
Some players take time to adapt to new country, new league, so it's not. Some other players will take to it instantly, but some players need a bit more time on it.
I agree. I don't disagree with that one at all. I don't know. To me, it's just so not needed. And it's the quote that's been picked up by everybody because it's all I've seen on Twitter today, which is why I have to ask this question. And that was going to be my follow-up question to you, Miriam. So, this is a World Cup winner. This is somebody who's played on the biggest stage. She's played in a very good Atletico Madrid side against the best team in Europe in Barcelona and Real Madrid. Obviously a good side as well, week in, week out over there. I don't know. I don't understand this answer, especially because it's just not true. To me, it's just not true. Maybe he's not. Obviously he sees the training and all those kind of things. Maybe she's not doing the things that he wants in training, and we don't know that because we don't see it. But what's your kind of thoughts on those comments and in terms of the comparison to to those of what he said about Vilda for pretty much all of last season?
It's just really contradictory. That comment, it's like a sentence, and he says there's 4 to 5 parts of her game that needs adapting. That's a lot. 4 to 5 parts is a lot that needs adapting. A World Cup winner. She's a World Cup winner. She played for Spain and won the World Cup. It's not. And then he likened her to Gemma Evans. Now that's a different thing completely because Gemma Evans is obviously a quality player in her own right, but not at all like Irene, and it's just really weird how he's picked up on this and just blurted it all out. He hasn't worded it very well at all. There's no need for it, and as you've mentioned already, if this is something that if this is something that he's seen, he would have seen it in her game. If there's 4 to 5 parts that he's picked up on, it's something that's visible from when she played at Atletico or in the Spanish team. Why bring her? If she's not ready to go, why bring her in? Surely there's better suited players for him. I'm a little bit speechless, but again, he does this to players, and it's a shame because she is world class and she has that medal around her neck. This is exactly what I'm saying. At the end of that quote, he said, "It's the same for Gemma Evans." What? How does she need? And again, this is no disrespect to Gemma Evans because quality in her own right, but she was at Reading last season. Is that right? So, Reading, Atletico. If you're buying a World Cup winner, you're going to want that quality to come with it straight away. And I don't know. I just think that's harsh on her. And if she does need time, that's fine. But to sort of talk about her and her qualities like that, it's just weird. He said she's quality. He said they can see in training her quality. So I don't know. I think it's very uncalled for.
To me, it's just, I said this last season as well. I think I really like Marc Skinner, and I'm going to come to you, Hannah, on a question about Marc Skinner, actually, because I'm intrigued from someone from that's not, I guess, closely associated with United. But I feel like he says what he should be saying to the players in public sometimes, and I feel like it's just not needed. Fans don't need to know this. Just say she's a quality player, we'll be seeing her in the next few weeks. Just give a media answer. Whereas I feel Marc doesn't do that, and he gets punished for not giving a media answer, and he says too much. And I feel like people pick up on that because he did it all last season when he was talking about when he gets asked like what he thought of the game. He starts tactically breaking the game down, and fans are just like, I don't want to hear that. We've just lost. Like, just say that you I don't know. For me, I think he gets punished for saying too much sometimes, and like you said there, the comparison with Evans, it just doesn't make sense. I agree. There was a comment. What Jake was saying, Cleberson was a World Cup winner. I don't think having that trophy automatic. It doesn't, but she was a part of it. She wasn't just around the squad and picked up a medal. She was a big part of that Spanish side, and also for Atletico Madrid as well. There was another comment I just wanted to quickly get to. Obviously, talking about favourites. His favourites, they did, but you have to adapt because otherwise you get very easy to play against if you keep picking the same team week in, week out over and over the course of seasons. There we go. He knows more than anybody about Guerrero. If that's who I think it is, it's in the chat, by the way. He's the one I did the player profile show with on Irene Guerrero. So if there's anybody who knows about her, is this guy. I just don't get it. It's just unnecessary to me. But there we are. Maybe she'll start on Sunday, and we're all sat here going, "Oh, maybe it was worth." I don't know. But Hannah, I want to ask you this question in terms of, I guess, where you see United and Marc Skinner and all these things, because weirdly, United have had the best season that we had last season. Obviously, we've just come off the back of a good result against PSG, and United fans are always split on Marc Skinner and United and certain players and all these kinds of things. What do you kind of see it from the outside? How do you kind of view United and Marc Skinner and all those kinds of things?
I mean, I've always sort of viewed United as being in a pretty good place, to be honest. I think you don't run Chelsea as close as you do and get Champions League football if you're not a good team. And I think you're exactly that. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, sort of going into the season, I was sort of curious how United would sort of balance that European football. And obviously, if you get into the group stages as well, that'll be another sort of conversation to have. Obviously, it's not quite the same as having Conti Cup games where you might be coming up against championship opposition and things like that. These are big games against big teams. And I mean, I think summer recruitment wise, I think really good job in terms of the players that you brought in. And even with the players lost, I do still think quality was brought in to replace them. I mean, I just kind of look at some of the names, and I mean, World Cup Golden Boot winner. I mean, Jay's, I watched her against Aston Villa on the first day of the season, and for me, I know you mentioned there, she does everything except get the goal, but she, particularly in that first half, I think she tormented Aston Villa's back line at times. So from an outsider's perspective, I do think you're in a really good place, and time will tell this season in terms of how well the Champions League football is balanced and things like that. But it's interesting to see in terms of the conversation about rotation and things like that, and what players will come in, because I think from Leicester's perspective, they'll sort of almost be hoping that is a discussion in terms of maybe even if you put out a slightly weaker team or make changes here and there, with an eye on that PSG game. If there's, I mean, football's a game of percentages, so even if there's the slightest of percentage that Man United will be slightly off it, then they'll aim to be absolutely all over that. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have too many concerns if I was a United fan at the moment, but I mean, I'm not, so I don't see the team week in, week out, or how certain players perform in every game. But just from on paper, I do think United have one of the strongest squads in the entire league. So yeah, you almost got a bit of an embarrassing of riches almost.
I like that. I think that's the thing. I think yeah, there's a couple of comments here, saying I think Marc's been really good. The only gripe is didn't rotate much. That was on 1 year, and obviously, ironically, that was our best season. So let's see what happens. I think that's it. I had to ask that question purely because it was in the press conference today about Irene. But I feel like I'm not worried yet. I feel like if we get to like January and we're not doing as well as last season, and we're still not seeing rotation, then I'll be questioning it a lot more than I did last season, because you just can't have these big names not playing. People just won't join you. There's not exactly a big positive thing around United at the moment as it is. We need some positive messages going out from players that this is the place to come to and so on. And there was one other comment as well. Anything to bash on Man City, I'm all for. So you really have to look across the city at, yes, Calvin Phillips, I believe you're talking about there. No, it doesn't. Such an overrated player he is. I remember when he was linked to United, and it was just like, no. Don't want him anywhere near United. So I'm glad we avoided that one. But there we are. I can see by your comments, you're very anti-Skinner. So I get the message. But we're only 3 games into the season. So, and 2 of them only in the league. So I think we've got to wait and see where we are. Yeah, come halfway through the season and towards the back end of the season. And then we'll really start to criticise and judge, because we don't know how this is going to play out yet. Yeah, I don't know. The last kind of questions for yourself and Hannah, obviously, in terms of how you expect Leicester to set up in this one. Are you expecting them to go back 4, back 5? What kind of system do you think Leicester are going to approach LSV on Sunday with?
I mean, this season they've pretty much been going with a 4-3-3, really. So I'd expect that to be pretty similar. Obviously, the goalkeeper's unchanged. The centre-back partnership will be interesting. Against Everton, they went with Josie Green alongside Sophie Howard. But I have a feeling Julie Thibaud will come back in. Janice Kamen has been at right back, with then Courtney Nevin on the left. Midfield will be another interesting one. Sam Tierney, Eileen Whelan, probably Jutta and Tala as well. And then it'll just be a question of the front line. It'll be quite interesting. I mean, one thing I noticed against Everton in terms of Leicester's press, it wasn't it was intense, but they picked their moments with it. And there was 2 moments in the first half within the space of about 10 minutes that they dispossessed Emily Ramsey in goal, and both of those opportunities should have probably led to a goal. I think Everton were very, very lucky that they didn't, but it kind of just shows the approach that Leicester will probably take, and they probably won't give you too much time on the ball, and they will choose their moments to press your back line. But we know Willie Kirk teams like to try and have the ball. They do like to be a bit more on the front foot, probably more so than Lydia Bedford. And obviously it was Lydia in charge of the 1-0 at the King Power last season. I think her sides were a lot more defensive and difficult to break down. Whereas I think the one concern that I'd have with Leicester is if they are trying to get forward and are trying to be a bit more on the front foot, that will leave the areas in behind which United have more than enough quality to exploit. So that would be my concern from that perspective. But yeah, we know Leicester will probably want to be on the ball as much as they can. It's just whether or not United give them the opportunity to do that.
We shall see. That is for sure. Before we come to kind of score predictions and wrap this one up, then purely, we've been going for an hour. We've done 3 shows already this week. So we were doing it a little bit earlier. I say early, it's still been an hour. Talking about attendance, I literally just checked for you. So the only stands that are on sale, unfortunately, it's now flicked to the Lee Sports Village ticketing site, not United. So I can't count the rows for you and tell you how many's left. But it's only the north, so the standing section, and the east stand, the north section as well. So if I had to guess, just based off the fact that west and south and most of east is sold out, between 4 and 6. If everyone turns up, something like that, which is going to be more than PSG on Tuesday. So that's interesting, which, to be fair, I said it was going to be. And yeah, Arsenal's 8. It'll be about 4. And to be fair, that's a massive improvement on last season, because I think Leicester at home last season was... I might actually look this up before I say. I'm pretty sure it was about 2. Someone say something. Someone fill the gap while I'm just checking this out.
I thought it was more than that, but I could be wrong.
Do you reckon?
I thought it was about 3, but maybe close to 4.
When did we play Leicester last season? It was towards
about March.
Oh, it was 3,600. It was last season. So if we can get above that, obviously it's progress when we're looking at it from that point of view as well. Oh, there we go. 4,800 for PSG. So, yeah, we'll see. There's always something, isn't there? There's always like a marathon, or Manchester have always got something going on.
I'm going up there early on Sunday.
I'm going up tomorrow night, so I'm going to miss all of that. All that traffic and all that kind of shenanigans. Right, Andrew, I'll come to yourself then for your score prediction. What do you reckon on Sunday?
Since definitely going to be a tough game against Leicester, and I think, as I said, we've got to be wary of them. So I'm going to go 2-0 United. I think our defence will hold out on that Leicester attack. So, but yeah, 2-0 for me.
Mia?
Oh god, I should have thought about this. I'm gonna say 3-1 to United.
It's decent going. Hannah, for yourself?
Oh, I'll probably go 2 or 3-1 to United as well. I probably should, back Leicester a little bit more, but I just think United will probably have, no matter what team you go with, I think you'll probably have too much quality on the day.
Yeah, I think 2-0 is probably about fair. Unless we get an early goal, then I can see the floodgates opening a little bit. But I think if Leicester keep the score down for the majority of the game, then yeah, it's going to be a tight one. I'll tell you something. That's a hell of a comment. Wiegman is also up for grabs. I cannot see Serena Wiegman coming to United.
Yeah, she was there
No.
She was there Tuesday night, but I don't think we were asking her to be manager yet.
No.
What are you shaking your head for me? Would you not want to see that?
No, listen, I am an honorary United fan. However, I am Lionesses through and through, and Serena, as soon as Serena leaves the Lionesses, life is over. So no, she's gonna stay there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes a good point. You want rotation and Serena; those two don't go hand in hand either. So I don't think we'll be seeing that anytime soon. I don't think we're going to be seeing that anytime soon either. I gotta be honest. But yeah, I don't know. 2 or 3-0. I'll go for. I can't see Leicester scoring. It's more going to be for me if we can score and get an earlier goal, and hopefully take some players off, because I don't want to see the likes of Jace and Mallard and these kinds of players needing to play 90 minutes with PSG in a few days later as well. Exactly. It's just not going to happen. Do you know what? I would love that,
Yeah, I really would.
I was so good. I don't.
This is really for the time being. So
this is really going off topic. But do you remember, Andrew, being sat in the Wren that morning when Solskjaer got sacked from the men's team, and because obviously United women will play. Well, who were we playing?
Arsenal.
Yes, it was playing Arsenal that day. And we were all sat in the Wren like depressed because Ollie had just been sacked. Like that was a horrible.
I know. I was at the game the day before, so I was not feeling very happy anyway. So I was like,
and we lost. We lost to Arsenal, didn't we? 2-0 at home.
2-0. Miedemar scored the second, I think, or the first. She scored one of them. I remember that. But yeah. You never know.
So if Marc Skinner ever does go, I want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in.
Yeah.
I'm going to be pushing that now. I know he turned down the Norway job, but that's only because he didn't want any association with his daughter. He didn't want that bias, didn't he? So hopefully one day we'll see him back at United. Before we wrap this one up then, Hannah, is there anything you want to shout out while you're on here? Obviously, I know you've got your work separate to this as well. Is there anything you want to shout out where people can find any of that or anything, any of those things?
No, good. I'm just on Twitter, which is my name. So, yeah, I mean, most of what I write is Midlands clubs, so probably not of too much interest. But yeah, I'll be covering the game on Sunday. So, yeah.
You're going to write a glowing report on how United have turned Leicester over, hopefully, on Sunday. And if you're doing the Midlands stuff, we do have a lot of Midlands, I guess, watchers. Something we were chatting about beforehand. I say it's my local. It's not my local. It's just the local-ish tier 3 side that I follow, Stourbridge, but it's very local to Andrew. So if you cover any of those, obviously Wolves and Forest, West Brom, all those kinds of teams. There we are. Yes, I agree on that one as well. But it's just not the football team. Not when United are playing them. Other than that, I don't really mind them. On that, obviously, predictions-wise, if you're in the Predictions League, if you can send your scores across. I'm looking at Andrew and Mia because I know they haven't.
I know. But
by kick-off on Saturday. tomorrow. It's obviously Chelsea kick off tomorrow. We'll be back again on Monday for the Leicester review, then literally a day later for the PSG preview on that one. So make sure you do all of that, liking the video, subscribing, follow us on Twitter at allforunitedvids, and we shall see you guys on Monday.